Hey, game two of the Rugby League World Cup. Australia were playing Fiji up at Headingley. The scoreline, the final scoreline, hides the fact that at times Australia were not fluid and laboured in this game. Their left-hand side attack, fantastic. Their right-hand side, not so much. Is a good way to describe it. And their right-hand side defence is where they've leaked their two tries. Australia going forward down the left, as I say, fantastic, scary actually. In fact, they're playing players out of position on the right side who would otherwise, on another day, play, or in another team, for example, at club or state, play on the left edge. So Valentine Holmes, great with the boot off the tee, but in the right centre position looked unnatural and uncomfortable. He's a great player, there is no doubt on that, but he's better suited on the left, be it left centre, left wing, or as fullback. Of course, you've got Latrell Mitchell, who's also a left centre, and Jack Whiten, who can play left centre and in the halves, predominantly on the left. So there's a bit of an imbalance in their squad. Obviously, Tom Trbojevic is unavailable because of injury, and so therefore Valentine Holmes is playing on the wrong centre, basically, which I do think affects the balance. Also, Cherry Evans, while he did create the try for Jeremiah Nanai, didn't have a outstanding game. The injection of Harry Grant does change the pace, and I think that's where the momentum swings firmly in Australia's favour, and that helps them win the game. Though Ben Hunt played well as well. They both played at one point at the same time. Of course, Hunt can also play in the halves. Cherry Evans, I think, is the player likely at some point not to finish the whole tournament in that halves position. I think obviously he may not play the final should Australia make the final, for example. I think his position is the one under threat for if a player gets dropped. Otherwise, yeah, Australia's solid, but there were periods where they were labouring. Now, Valemei scores the first try for Fiji. And that stuns the Australians. They look shell-shocked to begin. Defensively and intensity wasn't quite at the races. So until the Nanai try, when they had to work their way into the game, they were second best for periods. Now, the amount of energy expended and emotional energy that Fiji expend in the first 10 minutes does take a toll. Nanai's run onto the ball and the line he takes going against the axis of the ball. This is where Cherry Evans actually had a good spell in the game. He got a bit of control. He sets up the try. And Nanai's reverse running, that's a Queensland try really, because they play for Queensland at state level for Origin. And Nanai's been a breakout year for the North Queensland Cowboys. He's been a try machine. And for a forward scoring as many tries as he has for club and state, he's carried on his try scoring form. Fantastic. He played a very, very good game. There was that tip tackle on Wakeham in the second half where on another day he could have been sin-binned. We have seen sin-bins for less. I think on another day could be a sin-bin, but he had a very, very good game, high energy, and he on the right edge was the best player on the right edge, in my opinion. But it takes a little while for Josh Addo-Carr's individual effort. Now, that comes off, end of set, Fiji, good final kick. Tedesco under pressure, but this is where the left edge comes to life, and then it's the left edge wins the game for Australia. Addo-Carr's first try is a fantastic 90-metre run, and he has a lot of work to do. The Latrell Mitchell final pass, because Fiji have got 6 players within a 5-10 metre radius of Latrell Mitchell. He's drawn the defenders in. They're defending very narrow. It creates a natural overlap, and that's a poor defensive read by Fiji. But Addo-Carr still has a lot of work to do. There is some broken defence, but he's one of the quickest players in the game. If not one of the quickest players of all time ever to play rugby league in either Super League or NRL. I think 38 to 40 kilometres an hour he's been clocked at before. He's an absolute speed merchant. He still has to evade the broken defence. There are a few players who could catch him, and Fiji have got some flyers as well. But that's where Australia get that momentum. Angus Crichton obviously scores his try in 35 minutes, again down that left edge, and he's a solid player for New South Wales and obviously for the Roosters. So this left edge is now clicking. Half time comes. Fiji still in the game though. It's 18-4, and at times Australia are lacking that fluid nature, and Fiji, when they do get their hands on the ball, they cough up possessions. They were doing what Samoa did in the first game against England, and of course greasy conditions, rain showers passing through, a bit blustery at times. Looking after the ball is important, but unlike Samoa, Fiji didn't throw in the towel. They did keep hitting the line. They kept making the tackles. Just that Australian left edge had wrested control. So when the ball goes left, you're expecting more action. Fiji had shut down the Australian right-hand side. The Latrell Mitchell try, very, very similar. Good support running through the hands. Munster's involved. Addo-Carr's involved. Latrell Mitchell. And it's fantastic. Just support play by all players just after half-time on 44 minutes. They keep the momentum going. Harry Grant is just a live wire at hooker. Look, I think while he's not the complete article yet, and sometimes his game management does let him down over the course of a season, or if he's got to play the full 80 minutes, tonight for me he was the best player. The way the game actually changes when he comes on. And the momentum, he keeps the momentum in Australia's favour. I think Ben Hunt, while he's a fantastic player and was in the hunt for the Dally M awards this past season, Harry Grant has that bit extra speed and an extra mobility that Ben Hunt doesn't quite have, partly because of age. Harry Grant, though, is still growing into his role, but his try was fantastic. But that is the only try that Valentine Holmes doesn't convert. Very similar to Tommy Makeson in the England game. He had to miss a kick. Otherwise, the scoreline would have been bigger. Then we get the biggest incident, I think, of the game, the head clash between Ruben Cotter and Kamikamica. Ruben Cotter does not return after the head clash on 56 minutes. He was out cold before he hits the ground. Kamikamica, again, we saw in the NRL season, players get suspended for something similar. Dale Finucane on Stephen Crichton, similar thing, where, again, it was also poor tackle technique. This one is definitely more accidental than loss of control, which is why I think Kamikamica, there's no penalty. It's just to play the ball from that next phase of play. Ruben Cotter fails his HIA. Kamikamica does return later in the game. That could prove important a bit later in the World Cup for Australia. We'll have to see what happens with the protocols. He's definitely not playing in their next game. Whether he plays again, it depends how severe the concussion is, but he was out completely cold before he hits the ground. Hopefully he does play again in the World Cup, but as we've seen with more research done into concussions and head injuries, we shall have to wait and see on that one. That's unfortunately an unfortunate incident, otherwise a fantastic game by both teams. Both teams played the game in the right way. There was none of the back chat we've seen towards officials. Maybe a directive has been given out in regards to dissent. The game was played in the right way. The Tedesco try, again, he's been named captain. Obviously, Cherry Evans was captain previously. That might cause a bit of disunity, I think, or a bit of discomfort, I think, possibly in the squad. And Cherry Evans didn't have his best game. That he had a very good season up to the jersey fiasco, the Pride jersey fiasco for the Manly Sea Eagles. He had a very, very good season up to that point. But he didn't look fully on step, and there are obviously whisperings in the background about what's happening at Manly with his coach Des Hasler getting sacked yesterday. So there's obviously things that are definitely impacting Cherry Evans. He didn't have his best game that I've seen him play. Neither did Jake Trbojevic. They were very subdued in this game. They normally have bigger impacts on games. Tedesco has thrived as a captain for the Roosters, has thrived as a captain for the New South Wales Blues, and I think he thrives as basically having more responsibility. He was very lively from fullback today. Great try. And Josh Addo-Carr gets his second try on the night on 67 minutes from a kick through. The celebration is fun as well. And that's the end of the Australian scoring on 67 minutes. The Fijians, to their credit, unlike Samoa in the earlier game, they kept plugging away. And Surveyor Taruva gets his try from a Wakeham kick through, and then he has the second kick through. Great follow-up play, winning the 50-50. Again, that comes down the Australian right edge defence. So the Australian right edge still, I don't think, is quite right. And whether that's to do with Valentine Holmes playing in the wrong centre position or Cherry Evans not being quite at the races for whatever reason, be it because of what's happening at his club back at home at Manly, or just not suiting the combination with Holmes and Nanai in that kind of rejigged right edge, because Valentine Holmes normally plays on the other side of the field. Yes, they play together for Queensland, but it doesn't look like it's fully working. Whether putting Ben Hunt in that halves position and looking at possibly the hooker position in a slightly different vein with Harry Grant maybe starting the next game, we could see. But it doesn't look as fluid as it could be, and I think that is something to do with an inexperienced winger, a centre playing on the wrong side of the field, who's normally playing on the other side, and a halfback and a young uh, back row forward. You know, yes, Holmes and Nanai play together at club level, and yes, the three of them, not including Tuilagi on the wing, play together at state level, but the combination isn't working. So we'll have to see what happens there. Obviously, Ruben Cotter left the field with an injury, did not return from the HIA. Cameron Munster is named as the man of the match by the TV crews, but my choice is Harry Grant for just the fact that the energy levels didn't drop when he came on the field. I think Ben Hunt is a little bit slower out dummy half, probably better suited to being a controlling halfback. Harry Grant just Fiji couldn't cope with him. That's my man of the match. But thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comment section below. It is finished 42 points to 8 in favour of Australia. And of course, we've got day 2 tomorrow. So we've got 2 games tomorrow. Earlier kickoff times as well. I am liking the kickoff times that the organisers have put in place. Weekend games with an early and a late kickoff. Sunday games, 2 early kickoffs in regards to when they're starting play, which I think is good. With the week games, all evening kickoffs, so I think the organisers have worked out they want to get prime TV viewership and, of course, fans in stadiums. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.